Steve Smith, you guys familiar with his work?
Which one?
Steve Smith, the former NFL star and current NFL Network analyst.
Steve Smith Sr.? That one?
Steve Smith Sr.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep, familiar with his work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can move forward now.
Yeah.
If you weren't, I would have to explain who he is.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Steve Smith on the Cut to It podcast has weighed in on new Texans wide receiver Tank Dell. Take a listen.
His explosiveness, his rack, does a great job of setting up defenders. Dynamic with the ball in his hand. He makes you think, where is Tank Dell at on the field? Is he in the slot? Is he lined up in the backfield? Is he outside? He has the ability to run away from defenders. He has the ability to beat press cover. He has also the field awareness that you really want out of your wide receiver. He's a tank. You can put his size in there, remove that. Let that stop being the excuse. Just look at the man's body of work. I don't care what school he went to. I don't care what size he is or he isn't. What he does do is play the kind of football that you want on your team. Agent 89 believes that Tank Dell, you got the seal of approval, young man.
All right. That's a Hall of Famer saying that, future Hall of Famer.
You take a shot at UH there? I don't care what school he went to. He made it sound like the Cougs are some D3 program. Come on, Steve.
I think it was more so like his size. He didn't play in a Power 5 conference. That was his point, but kind of was a shot there at UH. Andrew, your thoughts on Steve Smith saying your school sucks?
Won't be an issue once they move to the Big 12. Oh, actually, wait. The receivers haven't been too great out of the Big 12 either. So
don't worry. Cody will talk up each one every year, and you'll get another Denzel Mims.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Have fun with that.
Just one each year.
Take a Baylor wide receiver every year. That always works out well.
And most of them have been out of Baylor, to come to think of it.
They all stink. All of them.
That's pretty high praise, though.
It's great. It's tremendous praise.
From a future Hall of Famer. And it should carry some weight for a number of reasons.
Number
one, Steve Smith Sr., a future Hall of Famer, and he does this for a living on the NFL Network. But I remember back in 2017, going into that draft, Steve Smith Sr. said his favorite wide receiver in that draft class was Cooper Kupp, third-round pick, which is where Tank Dell was selected a couple of days ago. So, high praise from Steve Smith, and maybe the fact that he got the Cooper Kupp draft prognostication correct should give you more faith that Tank Dell can be something special for the Texans.
And Steve Smith was pretty critical of this wide receiver class. I mean, there were plenty of guys near the top or that were first or second round draft picks that he had some pretty critical things to say about them. He was not a big fan of Quentin Johnston. I think his favorite wide receiver in this draft was Zay Flowers, who ultimately ended up going to the Baltimore Ravens, but he was not afraid to let it fly about these wide receivers. So for him to have a big positive profile on Tank Dell, and I have to imagine, even though they're very different from a size perspective, and you're saying, well, that can't be that different. I mean, Steve Smith was a small guy too. If Steve Smith was an inch taller than Tank Dell, he's 30 pounds heavier than Tank Dell. So they're different from a size perspective, but I got to imagine Steve Smith sees, hey, I succeeded as a small guy. I made it work. There's something here for these guys. And what we know more than anything, if you can get open, you can get open. This quarterback finds you the football, and then you worry about the durability, the hits he takes, so on and so forth after that. But if you can get open, you can get open anywhere on the field.
And he's got a nice rack.
Yeah, what was he talking about with that? Is that a football term that I'm unfamiliar with?
It is.
Okay.
His rack.
He's got a rack, man.
Tank Dell's rack?
That's the Champ of the Day nomination right there.
I guess so.
What is, is this something I should know from a football perspective?
Run after catch. Same thing as yak. Different verbiage.
Why did he say rack and not yak, though?
His rack.
I don't know.
Yards after catch. That's a common football term. But
I thought,
rack, I thought he was talking about Tank Dell's bosoms.
I thought this was some sort of coach speak term.
His man boobs.
His rack.
What does Steve Smith think of my rack?
Now that's a rack.
More there than Tank Dell and his 165 pounds.
Why do you think they call him? Why do you think they call him Tank Dell?
Do you actually know why they call him Tank?
The tank comes from the rack.
Now you know where he actually got that nickname from?
I remember reading it, but it has not stuck with me yet.
His mom called him that because he had a huge head when he was a baby. So she called him Tank, and that nickname just stuck with him. I thought that was hilarious.
That's way better than how Juice Scruggs got juice.
because he drank juice as a kid.
Yeah. Tank Dell has the nickname Tank because his mom was roasting him.
Mm-hmm. He had a huge head as a kid.
Look how big my child's head is. We call him Tank.
That's awesome. I'm excited about Tank Dell. I mean, I was hoping the Texans were going to draft this guy. There's a lot to like. I mean, Steve Smith talked about it. It's not just the rack for Tank Dell. That's a strength. I mean, he's got speed. He's got quickness. Some guys have one or the other. Not a lot of guys have both. He's fast off the line. He's very sudden, and he's got that extra gear down the field, too. And he is a rack/yak monster. He is very tough to bring down in space. He's not going to run over people. He's not going to break too many tackles, but he's going to run in circles around defenders. That's what he did in college, and I think that's going to translate pretty well to the next level. And, Cody, you talked about it. He can kind of score from anywhere on the field, and he can get open anywhere on the field. This guy was so productive. I mean, Cougs fans know this, but just to kind of put it in perspective how good he was over the last couple of seasons, Tank Dell led the country in receiving yards per game and receiving touchdowns over the last 2 years. Not in the AC, not in G5, in all of college football. He led the country in yards per game and receiving touchdowns. He also had a touchdown in 10 different games this past season, which was more than anybody in college football. So the production for this guy, absolutely there. In big games, he stepped up, and there is a lot to like about what Tank Dell brings to the table. He's going to be a fun watch, hopefully, for years to come.
And to add on to that, BK, I think something that people haven't necessarily looked at as much is for someone of his size, he was exceptionally productive in the red zone in those like short yardage areas. You typically don't associate that with a guy with his sort of body profile, but he was an excellent red zone threat. And I think that's just a credit to his ability to get open, his route running, and his hands in those sort of areas of the field. So he's a multi-dimensional threat. And he's not just someone who's going to be good in between the 20s. He's good in the red zone as well.
Did Steve Smith have Gannon making noises in the background for that clip you guys just played?
Yeah, what were those sound effects?
Can I hear that again? Were there Jonathan Gannon-like sound effects going on behind? That was not in that clip we played. Let's hear this again. Do we have some Gannon sound effects here in this Steve Smith clip about Tank Dell?
His explosiveness, his rack, does a great job of setting up defenders. Dynamic with the ball in his hand. He makes you think, where is Tank Dell at on the field? Is he in the slot? Is he lined up in the backfield? Is he outside? He has the ability to run away from defenders. He has the ability to beat press cover. He has also the field awareness that you really want out of your wide receiver. He's a tank. You can put his size in there, remove that. Let that stop being the excuse. Just look at the man's body of work. I don't care what school he went to. I don't care what size he is or he isn't. What he does do is play the kind of football that you want on your team. Agent 89 believes that Tank Dell, you got the seal of approval, young man.
Could have used more sound effects, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's only one.
There was
like a bubble noise too. It was like I wonder if Steve Smith hired the same guy Cam Newton used.
I think it was we had the stop doing that, please.
That was the Cam Newton effect.
I'm trying to explain the sounds we heard in that.
It wasn't that at all. It wasn't even close to that.
Yeah, it was a popping noise. He was like listing quarterbacks he'd be willing to be the backup for, and each one was like Cam Newton.
We had like the speedy Looney Tunes sound of what I'm assuming was him running off the screen.
Yes, that's what I got.
And then there was one where he said, he's a tank. And I think they put a tank up, and there was like a noise of like a tank maybe starting or something. Or
I didn't even hear that.
Something. And then that seal was at the last part, a seal of approval.
Was somebody talking about the Rockets? Is that why they started playing the tank sound? Is that what was going on there?
Spider on Twitch just wrote it. I'm trying to work out, but I'm dying from these sound effects.
Bizarre.
Sound like an episode of Looney Tunes at one point.
That's what I got too.
got off the screen.
That's all, folks.
All right, so here's my question for Tank Dell. Where does he play for this Texans team?
Slot.
Okay.
Like most of his snaps in college were in the slot, and I just don't think he's big enough to line up on the outside.
So I guess part of this is the hope that John Mechie can play a little bit more outside, because until he's showcased a lot, I'm not super comfortable throwing Tank Dell on there on the field over Robert Woods or even John Mechie, although basically Mechie's a rookie too. So, but it put four wides out there, two slots. I mean, it'd be kind of fun to watch somebody try to figure out how to defend him. And there was maybe it was Steve Smith that made this comment, or watching some Tank Dell highlights. It's, if you were a linebacker trying to defend him, you're toast.
Yeah,
you are toast trying to defend him if you're a linebacker. So there may be a safety or a corner ready to take on Tank Dell when he's on the field. And I'll be interested to see how creative can Bobby Slowick be, because he's got a bunch of guys that seemingly primarily work from the slot. But you got to find a way to get most of those guys on the field, because those slot-centric guys are the more talented guys. Like, Robert Woods is more talented than Nico Collins. I have higher expectations for John Mechie than Nico Collins. I'm more excited about Tank Dell than Nico Collins. So find a way to get those guys on the field, and we say it all the time on this show. If you get open, you can get open. So Tank Dell, your job, get open.
Hey, everyone. Big thanks for watching this clip from our radio show, and thank you for making the Wheelhouse the most viewed Houston sports show on YouTube. If you like our show, then make sure you subscribe to my channel for daily clips from the show. And, of course, you can listen to all 4 hours of the Wheelhouse each and every day on ESPN 97.5 FM or 92.5 FM from 3 to 7 every afternoon.